this session alongside two exceptional guests, Wendy Figueroa from the Taxpayer Advocate Service Office and Yvette Brooks-Williams, a senior stakeholder liaison for the IRS. And I'm Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester. Wendy and Yvette, first of all, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And I also want to recognize a member of my team, Jason McCall, for his hard work in pulling this event together and working with our constituents to solve problems every day. 2021 was an incredibly challenging year, but we've been working hard to ease the burden on everyday Americans. President Biden signed the American Rescue Plan into law, which brought over $900 million in pandemic relief funding to Delaware. Nearly 70% of Delawareans are now fully vaccinated against COVID-19, and the unemployment rate dropped from 6.4% when the president took office to around 3.8%, the most significant single-year drop in American history. We're building a better America, and I'm glad to play a role in it, and I'm glad that you are here today as well. Specifically, I support investing nearly $80 billion in the IRS over the next 10 years so that you can keep up with providing taxpayers with timely and improved services. We need them to be able to do their jobs. Hosting these kinds of events, I believe, is at the core of my responsibility as Delaware's member of Congress, because I want to make sure that our office is a resource for all of you. Before today's event, I asked folks to submit their questions and concerns about tax filing season to my office. And what we found was a set of common questions. Many of you were concerned about filing your 2021 taxes when you haven't received your tax refunds from 2020, 2019, or even 2018. There were questions about how the third economic impact payment from last year will impact your filing, and how to properly report your advanced child tax credit payments, which helped 116,000 families with 188,000 children in Delaware. You were also concerned with how to report your earned income tax credit, which helped 48,000 workers with dependent children in Delaware last year alone. And to answer those questions, we brought in the A-team. Wendy and Yvette are here today to share their expertise and hopefully provide clarity and some helpful information. And both of them shared with us at the outset that this is as challenging because there's so much new information and so many questions, but they're going to do their best to get it all in the time that we have allotted. Following presentations by Wendy and Yvette, they will have some time to answer questions you've submitted. And you have questions, if you have specific questions about a case that you have that's specific to you or an issue with the IRS, don't hesitate to get in touch with my casework team in our Wilmington office by calling 302-830-2330. I'm going to say that one more time, give you time to pull out your pen, your pencil, put it on your phone, 302-830-2330. Some of you may know that I began my career in public service working for then Congressman Tom Carper as a constituent caseworker. And back when I was a caseworker handling tax cases, there was no taxpayer advocate service. That's why I want to make sure that my office is a valuable resource to you. They are your voice in the IRS, and they represent your interests. Again, please don't hesitate to reach out to my office if you need help. And there is assistance available that you can make submitting your 2021 tax return a little less challenging. And we will be saving this session on our Facebook page for you to refer back to later or to share with a friend or a neighbor. We will also be following up with registered participants via email just to hear your thoughts on today's event, but also to provide you with the resources that will be shown here today during Wendy and Yvette's presentations. So to all of the Delawareans on the line, thank you so much for tuning in. And with that, I'd like to introduce our special guests, Wendy and Yvette. Wendy, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you, Lisa. I wanted to say welcome to everybody because I know there's a lot of information that we want to share today. And I'm going to start with reviewing some of the most common errors that occur when filing federal tax return. And I will provide you with some tips to prevent them so the tax return is ready to go without delay. And we know last year there was so many delays, so we wanted to make sure that you are ready. Next slide, please. So always make sure the most important information for you is to use your any year-end income statements that you receive, such as the Form W-2 or the 1099, the Schedule K-1, etc. And be aware that if you use your last pay stub, it may not match your W-2. And this could create a discrepancy and a delay in the processing of the tax return. So always review all the forms that you receive for accuracy and find out if there are some discrepancy. Make sure that you immediately contact your payer or your employer to get that issue corrected before you file the return. So next slide, please. And this is very important because if you don't use this year-end income figures, the IRS have this program, the computer match the information that you reported on your tax return with the information that has been reported to the IRS. So when the income and the federal income tax withheld is not matching, the return is delayed. And the IRS does this to help prevent, fraudulent refunds before the refunds are issued. So this is why it's very important that you verify that information as soon as possible with your employer. Next slide. So you also want to make sure that you check the name spellings, the taxpayer identification numbers, and we're talking about Social Security number, or perhaps an individual taxpayer identification number or adoption taxpayer identification numbers. The date of births are important to check, addresses, and your bank account information. Everything has to be accurate. So if you don't have a Social Security number yet, perhaps because you have a new baby or a dependent, you wanted to contact the Social Security Administration as soon as possible to secure one. You can also apply for an individual taxpayer identification number, or what we refer to as ITIN, because you must have valid Social Security, valid taxpayer identification numbers before, for all your dependents before the due date of the return, and you don't want it to get any processing errors, delays, or perhaps don't. In some instances, if you don't have a good taxpayer identification number, that could disqualify you for some of the credits. Next slide, please. So family-related credits and deductions are the areas we see the most errors and delay. So follow the instructions carefully to ensure that you claim all the deductible items and credits for which you are eligible. Double check your entries and always recheck your math. A lot of the eligibility requirements changed this year with the new law changes. So make sure that you look at the forms, the formulas, and that you double check them. Next slide. So I wanted to talk about the Earned Income Tax Credit, or we refer as EITC, because it is the biggest dollar amount credit claim. And the EITC helps low to moderate income workers and families get a tax break. So if you qualify, you can use the credit to reduce the taxes you owe, or maybe increase your refund. So let's do a quick refresher. There's a lot of information on the IRS.gov, but the income limits varies from year to year, and it also changed based on the number of children being claimed and the different filing status selected. So one of the best things to do is to use the EITC assistant tool available in the IRS.gov. It is also available in Spanish. And by answering questions and providing some basic income information, you can find out if you're eligible for the EITC, determine if your child or the children meet the test for a qualifying child, and estimate the amount of the credit. And you your spouse, and anyone being claimed on the EITC must all have Social Security numbers that are valid for employment before the due date of the return, and that is including extensions. Another thing to consider is the filing status. Married filing separate is the only filing status that does not generally qualify for the EITC, but you can use the married filing joint, head of household, qualifying, widower, or single filing statuses. Another requirement for this credit, you must be a U.S. citizen or resident alien all year. If you or your spouse, if married, were a non-resident alien for any part of the year, you cannot claim the EITC unless your filing status is married filing jointly, and you will have to review the special rules available in the IRS.gov publication 519, which is a U.S. tax guide for aliens. If you have foreign income that's reported on Form 2555, which is the foreign earned income, this will also disqualify you for receiving the EITC. There are going to be some instances where you may still qualify for this credit, even if you don't have a child or if you have a grandchild living with you. So it's important that you go, and review these requirements to see what the rules are for those without a qualifying child, or if you have a qualifying child in special circumstances. And again, you can go into the IRS.gov and get more information about that. Next slide, please. Improper credits, EITC payments remain a huge issue every year. So there are some common errors that we have seen in our casework. For example, claiming a child who does not meet the residency and relationship requirements. You want to make sure that the child lived with you at least for more than half a year. The next big one will be when you are incorrectly reported income or expenses on the Schedule C. The third one, the most common one, will be utilizing the incorrect filing status. So for example, filing a single or head of household when you are married. And lastly, but not least, we see errors concerning the name and Social Security number that they are not matching the IRS or the Social Security Administration records. So you want to always to make sure that you are looking at the spelling and double checking the number. You can go to the IRS.gov. There's a section for errors, and the address is there in the slide. But one of the most important things, because of these errors, there are some consequences. You could be audited, and in general, what happened, you could be possibly your refund delayed, the entire refund, or the portion of the EITC refund. And if denied, you will be required to recertify this credit with the Form 8962. And in some instances, you can be banned for claiming this credit for 2 years or 10 years. And if you are disqualified, if you receive the refund, you will have to pay the portion of the EITC plus penalties and interest. So very important to make sure that you do meet the requirements. Next slide, please. I'm sorry. Oh, I thought somebody was saying something. All right, so now we're talking about the premium tax credit, or known as the PTC, which is a refundable credit that helps eligible individuals and family cover the premiums for health insurance purchased through the health insurance marketplace. And this has been one of the biggest issues that we have seen on delays, because if you receive advance premium tax credit payments, you will have to complete the Form 8962 and attach it to your return. And you will use the Form 1095A Health Insurance Marketplace to complete this statement. And this, again, this was one of the biggest errors that we have seen and delays. So make sure that you attach the form. Next slide, please. So before filing, again, you wanted to gather all your records first. Make sure that you have all the documents that support every amount of income, deductions, or credits in your tax return. Any income document that shows federal income tax withheld must be attached to your return if you are planning on filing a paper return. If you are filing electronically, please follow the software provider's instructions. For each credit or deduction claim, check the form's instructions for when additional schedule is required, or if you have to complete any schedule that has to be attached when filing. Next slide. And if you need some help preparing your tax returns, IRS have some available free resources. We have the IRS Volunteer Income Tax VITA and the Tax Counselor for the Elderly TCE programs, and both offer free assistance for taxpayers who qualify. If your income is $58,000 or less, or persons with disabilities and limited English speaking taxpayer. These programs are wonderful. And in the website, you can find a locator and also information about what kind of information you can bring. And the TCE program is for those 60 years of age and older, and they specialize in pensions and retirement. You can also refer to the publication 3676B on the IRS.gov. I also wanted to mention that there are some information if you do not qualify for the free help. There are directory of federal tax return preparers with credentials on IRS.gov. And also you can refer to Taxpayer Advocates website, where we have some information about filing returns and choosing a tax return preparer, including how to file a complaint if there have been some preparer misconduct. Next slide. And this year we strongly recommend electronically filing because it's faster, more accurate, and secure. And if you have been hesitant in the past, this is a good time to switch over and file electronically. We're recommending also the use of direct deposit to receive your refund and the direct pay to pay your taxes if you are going to owe. Very important, if you are using software that imports prior year data automatically, make sure that you double check so you don't have any errors on your income or withholding. Next slide. And I always try to include a little bit of information about the Taxpayer Advocate Service. So make sure if you are having any problems that you have not been able to resolve through normal IRS channels, or if you're experiencing financial hardship, please contact us. It is free. It is a system for everybody. So we have a tool that help you determine if you will qualify for our assistance. And we're always available to answer any questions on our regular toll-free lines. And next slide. And I wanted to include also some of our resources where you can get connected with Taxpayer Advocate Service, our website, the National Taxpayer Advocate blog, where you can subscribe to it. And we also have some social media outlets that you can subscribe and follow to keep you connected. So I hope this information I share is helpful with you, and thank you for listening. And this conclude my part of the presentation. Yvette, you're next.
Thank you, Wendy. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for having us. So we're going to talk about filing your 2021 tax return. Let's see if I can get my presentation going. Oh, yes, thanks. Awesome. Here we go. So this year, there are more reasons than ever to file your tax return as soon as you can, with many new and expanded tax benefits for many, even those who don't normally file a tax return. So we're going to look at a number of refundable credits, and each of these credits has important changes that you may or may not have heard about. We'll take a look at the pandemic-related deductions for those of you who don't itemize deductions but give cash or credit card donations to qualified charities. And finally, we'll take a look at a number of filing tips to make this filing season go as smoothly as possible, not only for you, but for us at the Internal Revenue Service. So there's a number of important changes that can benefit you and your family, so stay tuned. For tax year 2021, next slide, please. For tax year 2021, there are several child-related tax credits that you may be eligible for, including the child tax credit, the earned income tax credit, the child and dependent care credit. These credits may be refundable to you, which means that you might receive a refund even if you're not required to file a return. And another refundable credit that we're going to discuss is the recovery rebate credit, which is related to the economic impact payments that you may have received during 2021. Next slide. The American Rescue Plan Act, which we refer to as ARPA, it was signed into law in March of 2021, and it made significant changes to the child tax credit. These changes impact both the 2021 calendar year and 2021 tax returns. Now, the ARPA raises the minimum age for a qualifying child from age 16 to 17. It also increases the child tax credit from $2,000 to $3,000 for children over 5 and under 18, and to $3,600 for children under age 6. And for taxpayers whose main home is in the United States for more than half of 2021, the plan eliminates the maximum refund limit of $1,400 on the additional child tax credit, and also eliminates the requirement that the taxpayer have a minimum of $2,500 in earned income for the year. And that means that even families with zero income can get the full child tax credit this year. And another important provision of the American Rescue Plan is that it provides for advance payments of the child tax credit of up to 50% of the estimated 2021 credit for taxpayers whose main home is in the United States for more than half of 2021. Next slide, please. So in a nutshell, for the enhanced part of the child tax credit for 2021, you may receive up to $3,600 for each child under age of 5 and under, and $3,000 for each child ages 6 through 17 at the end of 2021. No income is required to claim this credit for 2021. The qualifying child must have a Social Security number, must be claimed as a dependent on your tax return, and must live with the taxpayer for more than half of the tax year. There are some exceptions for temporary absences. The qualifying child includes foster children or extended family, and dependents who can't be claimed for the child tax credit may qualify you for the credit for other dependents, which is up to $500 per dependent. Next slide. The American Rescue Plan Act provided for advance payments of the child tax credit of up to 50% of the estimated 2021 credit. The advance payments were made to individuals whose main homes were in the 50 states or the District of Columbia for more than half the year. Advance payments were estimated from information that were included on an eligible taxpayer's 2020 return or 2019 return if the 2020 return was not filed and processed yet. The amount that the IRS determined depended on each individual person's household factors like adjusted gross income, the number and age of qualifying children, etc. The payments were made monthly. It started in July 15th through December 15th. And the total of the advance payments were up to 50% of the estimated child tax credit for 2021. Next slide, please. Now, if you received advance payments when you filed your 2021 tax return, you will need to compare the advanced child tax credit payments that you received during 2021 with the amount of the child tax credit that you can properly claim on your 2021 tax return. And the fastest way for you to get your tax refund that will include your child tax credit is by filing electronically and choosing direct deposit. If you receive less than the amount that you're eligible for, you'll claim a credit for the remaining amount of child tax credit on your 2021 tax return. And if you receive more than the amount that you were eligible for, you may need to repay some or all of that excess payment when you file. In January of 2022, the IRS started sending out letter 6419, and that letter provides the total amount of the advanced child tax credit payments that you received in 2021. Please keep this and any other IRS letters you received about the advanced child tax payments you received with your tax records and refer to them when it's time for you to file. Next slide, please. The 2021 recovery rebate credit is for those who did not receive the full amount of the third economic impact payments for which they were eligible. Individuals who did not qualify for the third economic impact payment or didn't receive the full amount may be eligible based on their 2021 tax situation. If you are eligible for the credit, you will need to file a 2021 tax return to claim any remaining amount of the third economic impact payment that you did not receive. If you receive the full amount, then you won't include any of this information on your 2021 tax return. And of course, the fastest way to get your refund, file an accurate return electronically and choose direct deposit for your refund. And in order to do that, of course, you're going to need to know the amount, if any, of your third economic impact payment and any plus up payments you receive to calculate that 2021 recovery rebate credit amount. And the IRS has also sent out letter 6475 to provide the total amount of the third economic impact payment and any plus up payments that you receive. And this is something you would also need to keep with any other IRS letters you receive about your stimulus payments with your tax records and refer to them when you file. Next slide, please. For 2021 only, more childless workers and couples can qualify for the Earned Income Tax Credit, a fully refundable tax benefit that helps many low and moderate income workers and working families. And that's because the maximum credit has nearly tripled for these taxpayers and is for the first time made available to both younger workers and senior citizens age 65 and above. In 2021, the maximum EITC for those with no qualifying children is $1,500. It's up from $538, which was in 2020. It's available to filers with an AGI below $21,430, $27,380 if you're married filing jointly in 2021. It can be claimed by eligible workers who are at least 19 years of age. Certain full-time students under 24 don't qualify. In the past, the EITC for those with no qualified children was only available to people ages 25 to 64. Another change applies to taxpayers with and without qualified children. For 2021, it allows them to choose to figure the EITC using their 2019 earned income as long as it was higher than their 2021 earned income. And in some instances, this option will give a larger credit. Let's go to the next slide, please. You may be able to claim a credit if you pay someone, we're talking about the child and dependent care credit now. You may be able to claim the credit if you pay someone to care for your dependent who is under age 13, or for your spouse or dependent who isn't able to care for himself or herself. The credit can be up to 50% of your employment-related expenses, and to qualify, you must pay the expenses so that you and your spouse, if you're filing jointly, can work or look for work. For 2021, you may claim the credit on qualifying employment-related expenses of up to $8,000. Previously, that amount was $3,000. If you had one qualifying person, or $16,000 if you had two or more qualifying persons. This credit is refundable if the taxpayer or the taxpayer's spouse, if you're married filing jointly, had your main home in the United States for more than half of the year. And for 2021, the maximum amount allowed to be excluded from an employee's income through a dependent care assistance program provided by an employer has increased to $10,500. Next slide, please. Charitable contributions. So this deduction allows many more taxpayers to receive a deduction for charitable contributions. It is estimated that 9 out of 10 taxpayers normally cannot take a deduction for charitable giving, but this temporary law, which is designed to encourage giving during the pandemic, will give many more that option. The IRS reminds taxpayers that to receive a deduction, they must donate to a qualified charity. Special record keeping rules apply to any taxpayer claiming a charitable contribution deduction. Usually this includes obtaining an acknowledgement letter from the charity before filing a return and retaining a canceled check or credit card receipt for contributions of cash. Next slide, please. So organized tax records make preparing a complete and accurate return easier. It helps avoid errors that lead to processing and refund delays. Individuals should have all of their tax information available before filing to ensure the return is complete and accurate. They should notify the Internal Revenue Service if their address changes and notify the Social Security Administration of a name change. Next slide, please. And here are some tips for filing season, the electronic filing options, choosing direct deposit for a faster and safer refund, and using Where's My Refund to check on the status of your refund. Next slide, please. And another tool we have is use online account to securely access the latest information available about your federal tax account and see information from your most recently filed tax returns. And you can find that on irs.gov. Next slide, please. Many different factors can affect the timing of your refund after we receive your return. And although the IRS issues most refunds in less than 21 days, we do caution taxpayers not to rely on receiving a refund by a certain date, especially when making major purchases or paying bills. Some returns are filed electronically or on paper may need manual review, and that would delay the processing if our systems detect a possible error. So that's why we caution you not to do that. The next slide, please. So make irs.gov your first stop, and that's where you'll find all the online tools you need to help you get the information you need. The tools are easy to use and available 24 hours a day. Millions of people use them to help file and pay their taxes, find information out about their accounts, and get answers to tax questions. So I want to thank you for this time. I'm going to turn it back over to Congresswoman Blunt Rochester. I know I went through the information kind of fast, but I really wanted to leave enough time to answer some of your questions.
Thank you, Yvette, for that. And I will actually go into some questions that we did receive from the general public here. And the first question actually comes from Alfred in Rehoboth, and he states, he mailed an amended 2021 return to the IRS in Kansas City, delivered it certified mail, and obtained a return receipt. It was signed by the IRS on October 16th, 2021. My wife and I are both retired and very much need the $1,000 plus refund due as a result of the amended return. Please help.
Thank you, Alfred. Unfortunately, COVID-19 continues to cause delays in the processing of some prior year tax returns and amended returns. As of March 5th, 2022, we had 2.1 million unprocessed forms 1040X. I'm sure that's not what you want to hear from us, Alfred. I just need to keep it real with you. We are processing these returns in the order received, and we are working hard to get through the inventory. The current time frame can be more than 20 weeks instead of the normal up to 16 weeks. Please do not file a second tax return or contact the IRS about the status of your amended returns. Taxpayers should continue to check where's my refund, where's my amended return for the most up-to-date process and status available. And you can find that on irs.gov. You can, just like where's my refund, there is a where's my amended return. So that would have the most up-to-date processing status available for you.
Okay, our next question is from Randy from Newark. Filing single with dependents for the first time as I was married previously. How do I claim my advanced child tax credit or dependent care when it was paid jointly?
Okay, so that part of the question, in January of 2022, Randy, the IRS should have sent you letter 6419, and it provided the total amount of advanced child tax credit payments that were dispersed to you during 2021. And please, again, as I said in the presentation, keep this letter with your tax records. You may need to refer to this letter when you file your 2021 tax return to help you reconcile. Now, the total of the advanced child tax credit payments that you received during 2021 with the amount of the child tax credit that you can properly claim on your 2021 tax return. Now, if your child tax credit payments were based upon a married filing joint tax return, as is the case with you, Randy, you and your spouse from that return will each receive your own letter 6419, and it will have the amount of the advanced child tax credit to you.
And her second part of the question was, can I somehow offset an overage of dependent care FSA to be taxed in 2021?
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Randy, because of the pandemic, many people were unable to use the money they set aside in their dependent care assistance programs in 2020 and 2021. And generally, under these plans, an employer allows its employees to set aside a certain amount of pre-tax wages to pay for dependent care expenses. The employee's expenses are then reimbursed from the dependent care assistant program. Carryovers of unused dependent care assistant program amounts generally are not permitted, although a 2.5-month grace period is allowed. However, recent coronavirus-related legislation, specifically the Taxpayer Certainty and Disaster Relief Act of 2020, allowed employers to amend their plans to permit the carryover of unused dependent care assistance program amounts to plan years ending in 2021 and 2022, or to extend the permissible period for incurring claims to plan years over the same period.
Thank you. Our next question is from Anita from Wilmington. And she asked, I can't e-file with TurboTax. The IRS rejected my e-file, saying my 2020 AGI on my return and IRS transcript didn't match its records. I want to e-file because my 2020 paper return was processed very late. Is there another way to e-file in this situation?
Thank you. That's a great question, Vanita. So for people whose tax returns from 2020 have not yet been processed, they should still file their 2021 tax returns. Those filing electronically in this group need their adjusted gross income or AGI from their most recent tax return when they electronically file. So for those waiting on their 2020 tax return to be processed, make sure to enter $0 for last year's AGI on the 2021 tax return. So that should be able to help you get your return filed electronically, Vanita.
Okay, next question is from Lucinda from Wilmington. And her question is, when you file taxes, are you penalized for working while on disability?
Okay, so this question needed just a little bit of clarification because I don't think well, I'll address it from this side. If penalized means tax, then the answer may be yes. So I'm not sure if that's what she means. So if you or your spouse, I'll just give you general information. If you or your spouse receive Social Security disability income benefits, as well as another source of income, you could likely be taxed for your benefits or part of your benefits if the total of 1/2 of your benefits plus all of your other income, including tax-exempt interest, is greater than the base amount for your filing status. And you can find that on irs.gov.
Next question comes from Susan from Wilmington. And Susan asks, if I haven't received my refund from 2020, do I still report that amount on my 2021 taxes?
So I need also a little bit of clarification on this question. So this answer is going to be general. So IRS refunds are not included in income for federal tax purposes. So if you're referring to not receiving a state or a local refund and you itemize deductions, then yes, you must still report that amount. But if you took the standard deduction, then you will not report that state or local refund amount on your 2021 tax return. So I hope that answers your question, Susan.
Thank you for that. And now we'll go to a question I received from Anthony from Newark. He asked, are online returns completed in order by the date received by the IRS?
Okay. Thank you, Anthony. Tax returns are open and processed in the order received. As the return is processed, whether it was filed electronically or on paper, it may be delayed because it has a mistake, including errors concerning the recovery rebate credit, or maybe an error with the child tax credit. it's missing information, or there is suspected identity theft or fraud. If we can fix it without contacting you, we will. But yes, they are processed in the order in which we receive them.
And our last question that was submitted and received comes from Dion from Solid Neck. And Dion would like to know, when will previous year's returns be processed? Some friends of mine are waiting on refunds from 2020, 2019, and earlier.
Okay, thank you, Dion, for your question. The IRS does understand the importance of timely processing of tax returns and refund issuance. We have processed all of the error-free refund returns received prior to April 2021 and continue to work the returns that need to be manually reviewed due to errors. We're continuing to reroute tax returns and taxpayer correspondence from locations that are behind to locations where more staff is available. And we are also taking other actions to minimize any delays. Tax returns are open again and processed in the order that we receive them. And as I mentioned before, as the return is processed, whether it was electronically filed or on paper, it may be delayed because it has a mistake on it or an error concerning the recovery rebate credit. The child tax credit information might be missing, or again, there could be some suspected identity theft or fraud. And if we can fix it without contacting you, we're going to do that. If we need more information or need you to verify that it was you who sent the tax return, we will write you a letter. The resolution of these issues could take 90 to 120 days, depending on how quickly and how accurately you respond and the ability of the IRS staff trained and working under social distancing requirements to complete the processing of your return. So what should you do in these instances? Well, in most instances, no further action is needed, but you may need to check, excuse me, where's my refund, or you can view your account if you use an account online. If you file electronically and received an acknowledgement, you do not need to take any further action other than promptly responding to any request that we send out for information. If you filed on paper, check where's my refund. If it tells you we have received your return or are processing or reviewing it, that's what we're doing. We're processing your return, but it may be under review. We're working hard to get through the carryover of inventory, so please don't file a second return or contact the IRS about the status of your return. We're doing everything we can to kind of catch up on the backlog. I think a lot of people don't realize that we too were vastly affected by COVID, and we're doing the best we can.
Thank you for answering those questions. And now, Wendy, I will turn it back over to you for any closing remarks.
Yes, I just wanted to remind everybody that, with the IRS delays, and the IRS is working very hard, but the Taxpayer Advocate Service is also impacted by the delays as well. So I want to let you know to have patience also with some of our staff. If you have an open case with the Taxpayer Advocate Service, we're diligently advocating on your behalf and contacting the IRS, but we also experience delays with the response timeframes for us as well. And if you are experiencing financial hardship or you are experiencing extreme delays, you can always contact us. You can go to the tool to verify if you qualify for our assistance, but you can also contact us by phone. We have a toll-free number, which is the 877-777-4778. You can also reach your local offices. We have offices in all the states, the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico. So you can contact us via completing a Form 911, and that form can be faxed to your local office. If you go to our website, you will have a specific information about how to contact your local offices. But if you are in Delaware, our contact number is 302-286-1654. Again, it's 302-286-1654. You can fax the information, the 911 to us, and the number is 302-286-1643. 302-286-1643. And we also have another fax that is a toll-free one, which is the 855-821-2130. 855-821-2130. And if you're not sure, you can also always complete the Form 911, send it to us, but make sure that you have filed your tax return. The taxpayer advocate cannot help you expedite the processing of the returns. We're not authorized. Returns have to be received by the IRS. But if you have already and you look at the tools, like Yvette have said, the where's my refund or where's my amended return, and you're experiencing a very extreme hardship, you can always contact us and we will be able to try to figure out if your case meets the criteria to be worked by our office. But you have to try first and weigh the appropriate IRS timeframes before you come to us. Thank you.
Thank you. And Yvette?
Thank you guys again for having us. It's always a pleasure to share our information with you guys. One thing I did want to say is that when you're filing and paying your tax return, so of course, we're always going to be promoting e-file. Electronically file, electronically file, electronically file, direct deposit refund, direct deposit refund, direct deposit refund. That's the fastest and most accurate way to get your returns filed and your refunds directly deposited into your account. I know I had to go through a lot of information in a little bit of time. The PowerPoint that I use, Jason, I don't know how you want them to do that. If they want a copy of the PowerPoint, you guys are welcome to share it with them. We have no problem with that. But I know I did cover a lot of information in 10 minutes. So some people may be visual like me and need that, PowerPoint to kind of go over what I said. So that's available if somebody wants it.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, on behalf of Councilwoman Blunt Rochester, thank you so much for joining on today's tax filing information session with Yvette from the IRS and Wendy from the Delaware Taxpayer Advocate. Again, please do not hesitate to reach out to the Councilwoman's office if you need help. The number for the Congresswoman's Wilmington office, again, is 302-830-2330, 302-830-2330. And remember that we will be saving this session on the Congresswoman's Facebook page, so please feel free to refer back to it later. And we will also be following up with registered participants via email to hear your thoughts on today's event and to provide the resources shown during Wendy and Yvette's presentations. Thank you again for joining and have a great day.
Take care.